You've already had it dibs on it.
Oh, it's indeed time. It is indeed. It is time for Movie Night Extravaganza. The best movie on the internet, bar none. No exceptions. None at all. Happy to be here. We're talking some Ghost World tonight. Andrew, Ghost World. I feel like you were born for this, man.
Indeed, I was. I mean, this is a comic book adaptation, and it's a great film.
I feel like, although it for once, your name is perfect for this.
Yes.
You don't even need to like think of clever or anything, right? So that's
no. But the thing is, though, is I put this because I was a big fan of Showtime's TV show Power, and the main character in it is Ghost. So, kind of coincidental that we're doing this tonight.
Fantastic. Of course, artist, illustrator, Ben Burgess, collaborator, off-topic maker, J. Andrew World. It's always a pleasure to see you. I, of course, am Conan Neutron, head of the WWC fan club, as you can see right now. Deep cut, by the way. That's in the mail that seems. I am host of Protonic Reversal, and I have a little called Conan Neutron, the Secret Friends, doing all kinds of stuff. We'll talk about later. And this is a formative movie that I obviously love because I suggested it. And I can't wait to get into it with the panel because it's going to be awesome, including Kristina. Kristina on Twitch. Well,
hello.
Good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm good.
Tired, but is fine.
They upped my trial zone to 150. Woohoo!
All right, and there you go. That is the news.
Yes, that is the medicine update for tonight's show.
I honestly did not respond to that. I'm doing my best. Renee, welcome back to the show. It's been far too long.
Yes.
Just real quick. Should be voting right now.
What's that?
Should you be voting right now? Because that's why you.
No voting.
Okay, right.
No.
Yeah, deep cut.
I went to bed early in preparation. There was no exciting activities last night, so I would be here. You got to remember, it's 10 a.m. here on a Saturday morning. So
yeah, you don't have to be going full. Of course, Renee and Night Shift. You just did a new episode, I think last week, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, men. Yeah, correct.
Part of the extended movie extravaganza Matic universe, of course.
Yes.
Smells like girl. So many things, all the things done by Renee Ruin, and we appreciate you so much. It's great to have back. Any Ghost World thoughts before we kind of get into it?
If you're not familiar with the comic book, I just want to bring that up first because it's kind of interesting looking at this as an adaptation because the comic was just a bunch of vignettes telling the story of two friends' relationship falling apart. Right. And it's if you've not read it, check it out. The artwork's fantastic. And if you really want to dig into the artwork, I highly recommend the artist edition where they get really high res reprints of the original artwork, including showing you how like they do certain overlays to create the color effect because it was like two colors. And various printings, they actually experimented with different colors on the page. So it's actually kind of interesting to actually buy multiple copies. Like, I already have this 8-ball, whatever. Buy another print. Oh, but this is a 3rd edition. Well, let's see what they did differently in this, or whatever. Or the different graphic novels. You'll see like various like attempts at like adjusting the color. So it's absolutely fascinating to kind of go through all of that, and you can see some of that ephemera. I know cartoonist Kayfabe did a great job looking at some of that and comparing like the master edition to the reprinted graphic novels. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, there is stuff online that I highly recommend that you check out to see the artwork. But then the story itself, like I said, is about just 2 women and graduated from high school, well, becoming women really, and just their relationship drifting apart. And the movie, I think, is a very interesting job of trying to, instead of doing little vignettes, trying to tell a more cohesive story.
Yeah.
So there's your comic book minute with the world. I don't disagree with any of that, but I think it's what I like about the film personally is that it transcends any clouds knowledge or indie comic fandom, and is just an interesting coming age film. Renee, why don't you start us off? What was your first exposure to this world?
Was that to me?
Renee? Yeah. Sorry, Renee.
The stutter's getting kind of bad.
It's the first time that I came across it was when I actually was in a big book comic store in the city here called I think it was Metropolis at the time, and it was a place where everybody went just because they had cool everything, figurines, like every TV show, film, and whatnot. And more than anything, I just fell in love with the character of Enid, and like her style and stuff was how I dressed at the time, and I kind of just related to her. And then that was my first thing. And then obviously reading into it and just seeing a comic book that was really alternative and focused on girls was something I hadn't seen. Most of the comics around at that time were things related to people with powers, and all sorts of different things. But obviously there wasn't many of this kind of realm that were kind of just life. So I was more into like lots of like Lenore and John the Homicidal Maniac, and that's the kind of stuff that I would watch. Read, and so this was something that was a little bit different and just appealed to me because I felt like it was kind of like me and my friends. So then when the film came out, I was super interested to see how they were going to pull it all together and do something a little different with it. So, and the aesthetics in this film are just, hello, Conan times 2. The aesthetics in this film and even in the comics are just they just appealed to me so much. So that was something that I just immediately related to. And I also really, on a personal level, related with the relationship between female friends falling apart. It's something that I think almost all, I'm sure men, same scenario, but like female, and teenage girls are horrible. And, I think I did do an article a few years ago that went viral about how female friendships are actually more traumatizing and damaging than a normal relationship breakup. So, and and how they can
around right now.
going around, and how that can how that affects you growing up as well. Girls sort of go towards one friend, and then when you break up with that friend, it really is like a breakup, like a relationship breakup, and it's kind of worse. It's just like it feels like your world is ending if you especially if you're like an alternative person and you've got your one kind of weird person that you mesh with. And I'd probably say I've had like three of those in my lifetime that were terribly heartbreaking, and like, so I can really relate to that, and especially that transition period between finishing high school and deciding what to do after that. Because everyone, that's I think for everyone can relate to that everyone's friends just fall apart generally once you get to the I mean, I ditched mine, couldn't ditch them fast enough. Like, it was like, I'm out of here, like, I'm not staying in this small town, I'm moving.
Did you find a Steve Buscemi and like hang out with him instead? Is that
hell yeah.
Yeah, I would rather hang out with Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi obviously was one of the things that I really loved about this film. Like, I just love him. So I have very mixed feelings about the parts with him in this film, because it makes me so sad how mean they are to him. But then there's also some really sweet, tender things in there as well. But it's just everything about it in terms of visuals and the way that they were able to turn something that was just about life and friends and that really hard relationship between people growing up and growing apart was really well done.
Kristina, how about you?
Well, I remember seeing this film like in middle school, I believe. Yeah, because I love Thora Birch growing up. I mean, from Hocus Pocus to
who doesn't love her?
I know.
Every guy I knew had a massive crush on her in this film.
Yeah.
Act fully.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I related to the story because I had a friend that I knew since 6th grade who up and just decided to not hang out with us like alternative, like anime loving weirdos, and decided to start hanging out with the alternative party people who like doing drugs and drinking and shit like that. And then just her attitude about me changed.
Collecting records and
nothing wrong with collecting records.
But we're friends now. Like, we kind of went through a period of drifting apart, but then we kind of ended up being in some of the same classes later on in high school, so we kind of reconnected. And now she works for the Democratic Party in Columbia, South Carolina. So I'm like,
that's the alternative party, isn't it? Like, there's a goth party kid, like I don't know, like an indie rock party kid to Democratic Party pipeline for sure, like 100%.
Yeah.
So for myself, I saw it at the Parkway, and I was vaguely familiar with Dan Clowes, but big fan of indie comics and big fan of Thora Birch as well. Just echo that earlier point. Right.
Yeah, and also too, Scarlett Johansson, like I this is the thing, I was the Thora Birch, and like my one friend was like the Scarlett Johansson character, obviously. Like, I'm like,
100%. That's exactly where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
It's like they want to be normal. They're like, I want to be a normie now. And you're like, I don't want you anymore because I don't want to be a normie. Sorry, bye.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that I think in a lot of these movies, like the female friends, because like there are a bunch of like female friend movies, and they do drift apart in a lot of these teen movies, but like they always kind of drift apart towards other people their age, like another clique of high school kids. And what's kind of fascinating about this movie is it's not drifting apart to another clique of high school kids. It's drifting apart to like hang out with, I don't even know how to describe. I mean, like the grown-up version of herself, almost like but like the guy version, obviously, like who's just so uncool that he's kind of cool. He definitely is in this, but like it's funny that it's interesting that this movie is not one of those movies that kind of echoes the other ones, where it's like, oh well, like Lady Bird we talked about last week. That's like she ends up hanging out with like the rich girl like Jules or whatever, and and those friends, and like abandons her like her close friend. And in this movie, it's not that. In this movie, she's not leaving that for like a clique of other kids her age. She's going and hanging out with 50-year-olds.
But I almost feel like that's like that there just isn't those weirdos in her town. And she's just gravitating towards people who she can relate to, and it just happens to be a 50-year-old man.
Yeah,
Like,
but I'm
you know, like if her best friend
Yeah.
is like her best friend's quite normal, like, you know, so when you're in high school, you often get forced to make friends with people that just kind of are like you, but they're not like you. You know what I mean? Because you have a small pool of people to choose from, particularly in small cities or towns. So,
Misanthropic,
you know,
and
Yeah.
I would say like, she's definitely.
I mean, you always have that.
Misanthropic.
Conan,
Yeah, and you
really,
always have that hero that's like someone you've seen or whatever in your town that's older, whether they're, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50, like that are cool, and you think they're so, you know, they're totally cool, like rad people, and you want to get to know them because that's what you want to be like when you're older, kind of thing, or they get you. So, you know, I definitely get that. We used to hang out with people who were like 25 because we thought they were amazing. You know,
no, I was the same way in junior high. There was a guy who was 21, had a mullet and a mustache, and drove a T-Bird to middle school, and because he just couldn't get past you know, 8th grade there, gave him a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But he hung in there, and the school actually gave him like a graduation before, you know, like we didn't have ceremonies in Texas, but they gave him like, you know, yeah, you passed junior high before, you know, he aged out of school because he was too old.
Oh,
I remember sitting there at lunch with him thinking I was the coolest guy because I got to hang with the coolest guy in middle school.
yeah.
And well, I don't know. I had a similar experience, but not like with people in school. Like I would go to town, and I didn't really fit in with people. I came into the high school that I was in, like from a middle school that was really small. It was like a private school. I don't function well in like big school systems or whatever, or at least in school I didn't. Like high school or whatever. In college I actually did, but yeah. So I went, and people didn't really take anything that I said like seriously, and like they thought I was dorky or whatever, and weren't really into hanging out with me. So I ended up hanging out with like grown townies that were like you know, like 25, 30 years old when I was like 15, and you know, ended up getting into trouble that way. But like I relate to that. Like I relate to finding people that are like, oh no, like when you actually are an adult and like you actually go into different places, like your quirks or whatever, like people accept them more than in high school. And maybe it's not even worth like trying to make friends with people in high school. Why not just go, you know, find a bunch of old dudes that are like throwing fucking beer bottles at stuff and in parking lots.
Yeah, as that gutter punk told me once, you know, the best people to party with is the bum behind the grocery store.
Yeah. And so my town at the time, not so much anymore, had a large clique of guys behind the grocery store type guys, but we would all hang out in the middle. Like there's like the main strip, and at the time it was owned by like you know, one of the people that hung out with all those people, this coffee shop. So we'd all sit on the stoop outside and like, you know, like pour like Four Loko or something into like a styrofoam cup and like be sipping that in the middle of town, and cops would be going by, and then the cop would like go and be like, how's it going, guys? And then he'd turn around and it'd be like these gutter punks like flipping off the cop, and then like I don't. It was a mess, and it wasn't. I don't think a situation that I should have been hanging out with like in when I was like 14 or 15. But like it is a gravitational thing where it's like at some point you're just so weird coming into a new situation, or you know, you just don't fit in that situation that you're like, well, there's people that aren't in high school. Like maybe I should just try to make friends with those people.
Well, I mean, there's a certain amount of almost bullying too that makes you feel better. Like I came from a shitty small town, you know, and like we weren't always kind to other weirdos, and you know, especially when they're quote unquote old. So you know that there's something to that. It's honest, even if it isn't nice, you know. And it's
100%. It's not always nice. Life isn't always nice, and like people, you know, and you got the thing that I always keep reminding myself is these girls are 17. They're very immature, and like, so you know, the idea that they, you know, that they think it's really funny to just play this trick on Seymour, it's just cruel, but like funny if you're 17 and you're with your mates, you know what I mean? But then from, you know, when I look at it now, after like having watched it many times, now I'm always like heartbroken when it gets to those scenes, because you can really see the pain that he's going through, and that he's so excited that some gorgeous really cool girl is like fascinated by him.
Yeah, don't be mean to him. Be nice to him. Come on.
I'm like, Steve
He's had-
Buscemi,
It's
come on.
also a time before catfishing like became a term that people use a
Yeah.
lot. Like, you know, you could put your personal ad in the newspaper, and then, you know, it's not like people are like, yo, you probably shouldn't do that because it's going to be someone fucking with you that like try to lead you into that. You know what I mean? So it's a time before that term.
There wasn't like it's like a misconnection before misconnections, right? It's like
From what I understand, there are a lot of papers or whatever that still have those things that are like, I saw you on Da-di-da and whatever.
Yeah, they kind of
right? Think that people are actually going to see it and reply, but anyway.
Yeah, people be like posting their faces on stuff, or people be using people's like faces for ads and stuff like that. We see now TikTok where a lot of brands are using other people's brands to promote their product and like overpricing their product, but using like a cheap alternative for like the actual ad itself. I'm like, well, that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah. Hey guys, I should say super chats are on, and if you have questions for anybody, for Renee, for any of us fine panelists here, don't be afraid to send a super chat. We are a little bit broke here, and having a podcast costs money, and I'd love to have my collaborators and not just me raking a little bit of money from this. So super chats are on. You can ask us anything. You can give us a misconnection thing. We will plug your misconnection. We will adopt your baby. If you have a baby and you want us to just send the money for the baby every month, we will adopt your baby. We have all kinds of things going on here. Super chats, let's do it. We have super stickers. I think just all of the monetization stuff is on.
Super baby adoptions.
Oh, can people become members now?
Yeah, I think so. I think I turned that on.
Oh, you should make live chat like emojis of us.
Look
I got Twitch already.
I can't. I wanted to do the thing that that they did in fucking Booksmart, where she's like, but I'm my desk is too close down to me for me to be able to pretend that I'm on like an escalator or something.
Oh, like does he need awesome powers?
Oh, like this?
No, not like that. Unless your elevator got stuck.
That looks like a drop.
Yeah,
now I'm stuck.
Okay.
There you go. Good job. Good job.
But I have, and I really hope this doesn't get us unmonetized. I had to clip it out. But I have Scarlett Johansson as a 17-year-old talking about this movie and her experience, filming this. And if there's anyone here who has to go switch rooms, this is a two-minute clip. A 2-minute clip. Now would be a good time to do that. But I don't know anyone like that. I'm just saying, like, if
he's so young, fresh faced.
Yeah.
What am I like in high school? Well, I'm an average student. B's and C's. I have friends that are really close and try to keep that a sacred thing, much like Rebecca and Ina do in the film. Like, she's a pretty intelligent girl, been sort of quiet her whole life. She's her own person. I don't know, I think there's a little bit of Enid and Rebecca in everyone.
She's quite the character. She's always been sort of not your average girl. She's a bit crazy. She's very scattered, 1 minute she's off doing one thing and the next, boom, she's completely on a whole another track, and I don't think she really kind of knows what she wants.
We have to get together this summer.
Yeah. That'll definitely happen. I mean, Enid is really out there, but also very insecure, and I think both characters are quite insecure, and that's why they find such a bond within each other. So which one I'm more like, I can't really say. I don't know if I relate to either of them.
I totally hate you.
The director ordered us to hang out. He was like, yeah, you and Scarlett should really, get together. So we're okay. But she's pretty mature, she's from New York, which means she's an adult at the age of 3. So
me and Steve Buscemi argue all the time that nobody's ever going to work after this film. Of course, which is not true.
I think Ghost World is when you're walking down the street or something, or you're on a train or whatever. You just think wow, this is such a it's so surreal. It's such a strange world that we're living in today. I think it's like when you have moments like that where you kind of look around and you think like, wow, this seems not unreal. I think that's really what the ghost world is, but who knows? Well, I'm still in high school. I'm going into my senior year. I enjoy school when I'm learning things about things that I'm interested in, which is kind of rare, I think, in high school. You know, you get out of high school and you're just like, wow.
That's the first thing I said when I graduated from high school is, wow.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say, sorry, but Thora Birch blows her out of the water. That when she's talking, holy hell, she's stunning. Thora Birch was such a wallflower until she like got older and like developed and like just became the ScarJo we know now. But my God, Thora Birch, whew.
Yeah.
I would have been in love with her if I was when I was younger. If I went to school with her, I'd want to be her best friend.
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson was very average, but it always goes to show that, you know, some people don't peak. And we all know that a lot of people who peak very, 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 very young end up looking not so attractive when they actually should be peaking, which is weird because like the two girls, it's like, you know, one's the pretty friend and the other's the not so pretty friend, and we all know that ScarJo. Yeah. Okay.
They're both pretty. That's the important thing, is they're both pretty.
Yeah. They're different. They're pretty in different ways.
Yeah.
Never
Wait, everybody's echoing Conan?
Are we? Is this the ghost world? Do we somehow?
Are we in the ghost world?
The ghost world.
I'm not into it.
It's scary.
This is not. Don't ever mock people with technical problems. That's my rule. But
no, it's horrible.
But no, it's good now.
I can leave now. I mean, I can just leave. That's fine.
No, I wasn't mocking. I wasn't mocking you for having tech problems. I was mocking the fact that all of a sudden we all echoed.
We were all echoing.
That was the
in a different universe.
And then we just watched a clip where she was like, "What is the ghost world?" So I said, "Is this the ghost world?" Because of the clip that we just watched.
Yes.
Thank you for the explanation. Yeah, so I think that you know, it's important to note that they're two different kinds of misanthropes, right? And one of them is more like socially acceptable.
The other one's banned from this podcast, and we don't talk about him anymore.
Then why'd you bring him up? Come on, move on. So why are we all with nothing but Thora Birches in this panel? And
we are a bunch of Thora Birches. Did we have a ScarJo in our lives growing up? I mean, I felt like I was originally Thora Birch, but then I grew up to become Scarlett Johansson, which I'm not mad about, to be honest. I'm now the hot friend. I'm embracing it. Okay.
I think I've been an Enid my whole life, and I like to surround myself with Enids. But I have a few ScarJo friends roundabout. But my preference, I like the weirdos.
The character I related to in this movie was Seymour, and literally
I fucking loved Seymour. And
I'm surprised you didn't change your name to suddenly Seymour, Forrest.
That would have been good. I didn't think of it, but
it's also on the topic of Seymour. It's important to note that Seymour doesn't exist in the comic, and he's actually a character that was created for the film. That's the composite of two characters from the comic. So Bob Skeets and I think it's Bearded Windbreaker. So yes, that they were both the inspiration for Seymour for this film. So when Klaus worked with Terry Zigoff on this film, they came up with that idea of adding the whole Seymour storyline and Seymour the character. And it was like a painstaking experience, apparently, that took 5 years for them to create this film. and Terry struggled quite a bit. But one of the other things is, which also has been mentioned, is that I think Daniel Clowes even mentions it, that Seymour is very similar to Terry Zigoff, and it has a lot of the same mannerisms. He's very similar looking, and got like quirkiness to him. So some of himself was put into that character as well.
Man, quite a lot of men look like Steve Buscemi. You got Bill Skarsgård, who could probably play this character in 20 years if they ever did a remake, which would be a bad idea. But like, it's like, oh wow. So it's
He'd
like,
definitely be on Reddit if he was, yeah.
He based it off of him. He based this character Seymour off of himself. So it's like, oh, there's a physical likeness there. There's also the same mannerisms there. I'm like, how many goddamn men in this world look like the beautiful Steve Buscemi?
Well, pretty unique looking dude.
He's very unique looking, and Terry Zigoff is also very unique looking. And
was it Crumb that was his movie before this? Is that
correct? Right? And him and Crumb had a lot of disagreements when making that film, because they're both incredibly difficult personalities. And so,
just like this fucking show. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But he obviously had
not you two. You two are fine. I'm talking about up here.
We handled them all internally. We have
we like to have it on air, apparently. Yeah, it's good. It's real good. It's real professional.
I want to say, one of my favorite bits, which is just so minor but so great, is I freaking love the mullet guy. He has me in the tears every time it's a scene with him.
Well, and so all right. So since you
I wish he had a tiny little bit more like mini cameos, because
I wish he had a spin-off series. Are you kidding me? Like, yeah,
I've not seen this.
Anybody deserves one. It's like we need like the Disney Plus expanded universe mullet guy series.
Prestige TV nunchuck dude. Yeah,
it's just amazing, and he's just always standing out the front. And I mean, so politically incorrect. Sorry, and just everything about him is sensational. I was just like, I wonder.
So for me, when I saw it, I grew up in this town called Modesto. It's in the Central Valley of California. It's like the Midwest of California, and I mean that as an insult. Meaning it's more like Kansas or Iowa than San Francisco or Los Angeles, right? But there were dudes like that just loitered as like their primary vocation, but like had like things that they would like practice skills to be like, yeah, but I'm really good at the nunchucks. I'm like, what? How is that useful for you as a vocation of just being at large at this convenience store? But and they were the only people that were in, like, when you see the like no shirt, no shoes, no service, like who's that for? And it's like, no, it's for that guy.
That's for everyone in Australia too. We have that at the front of nearly every pub restaurant. No shoots, no shirt.
And they're saying like, my freedom's being impugned. It's like, no, it really is.
The funny thing is that there actually is like this whole community of people who are mad about this and want to like go into places with no shirt, and like they're so boring.
Well, it's also like they're the people you usually don't want to. At least this guy's got a good physique. The people
we were talking about it last night. He's actually ripped.
He's pretty good. Yeah,
more power to you. You know what I mean?
So with his mullet and shorts, practicing nunchucks in the parking lot.
He's the guy that played, and I wasn't sure about this until right now. A year before this, he was the guy that played Officer Doofy in Scary Movie, the retarded, mentally challenged, character in that was correct. So that's the same actor, and I was like, where do I know that guy from? And then
he's got a face.
I feel like he played someone who was like mentally challenged, and then it hit me just now looking at like he's like the main character, one of the main characters of Scary Movie.
My favorite part at the end of that film was when he like removed his mustache and like just went off with Sherry O'Terry or whatever her name was. I'm like,
and it's him that was the fucking killer the whole time.
The funny thing is I was in New Orleans, and I actually saw the proto nunchuck guy, because I'm sitting there at a trolley stop, and this kid pulls out a pair of nunchucks, and his dad goes, "Hey, stand over there so you don't hit anybody."
So my point is that there is a lot of nunchuck guys, but they're usually not as cool as nunchuck.
No,
this is his professional headshot
Fantastic.
I love it.
But it is absolutely lovely that this movie shows him and shows that there's clearly a relationship between him and the store owner that goes back, that is not ever in the film.
Yes,
but
Brian. What is it, Brian?
My God, maybe I'll get through a
Oh, I
sentence.
forgot the actor's last name. I apologize. Brian George, that's his name. I love him and everything he's ever done, but he never gets good roles.
But so what? All right,
this is his less professional job.
Because he looks like David Arquette.
So what I like so much about this movie is the rich character.
Yeah, I'm looking at his roles and they're pretty shocking.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for adding to that. All right, finish your sentence, Conan.
So what I like about this film is that there's a lot of rich characterization that it shows you part of it. Like you get like the tip of the iceberg, but it all makes a tapestry of their world that they live in. It's very mundane, but has like all of these interpersonal relationships and everything. And it's done so in a way that you get the shorthand of it immediately. Like one of my favorite scenes is the blues bar. And one of the reasons why is they go to see the storied old blues man, right? And then
Blues man,
oh yeah, if you like blues, you're gonna love Blues Hammer. And then Blues Hammer plays, and it is the worst thing.
They are so fucking bad.
It's the worst thing you've ever heard. And here's something that y'all may not be aware of. Maybe Renee is, but Blues Hammer became shorthand amongst band people for a certain type of band, which is like the Cheese Dick, like Tuesday, like local fucking rock band. It's gonna be some Blues Hammer shit, because clearly they're like beloved there by all the Cheese Dick people that are there to see them. But like the iconic Blues Hammer scene is iconic in a way that it's like sort of playing for the cheap sheets a little bit, like it. And I love that so much because it's just all it is there to show is to show that woman has taste that is incompatible with Seymour. That's what they're there for. But it's perfect because that has never been put on film before. Mm-hmm. And even like go back to our excellent 2-part Roadhouse episode, which was fantastic. Yeah. But even like the blind fella playing the blues, like that's fine. That's like not my thing, but respectable. And
he's a real dude.
But and he's a real dude, a real musician. But there are so many blues hammers in the world that aren't just like playing the blues, but a blues hammer style band. And to see the like disgust on Seymour's face, like just like, like I've sensed my natural enemy. It's so perfect because it tells you everything you need to know about those characters in like the space of like 4 seconds, which is 3 seconds too much for that band, let me tell you. But this movie is
we have a local, like I have friends that have a local band that they do called and I fucking love it, but I feel like if I explained it to anyone that wasn't in New Paltz, they'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's called Trailer Swift. They dress up as redneck, like over the top rednecks. And play.
No, I got it immediately.
Yeah.
Why do there's so many bands like that? It makes me ill. There's so many.
A friend of mine who's actually playing in the Dwarves right now is another band called the Spice Pistols. And if you think you know what that is, you are correct.
I'm checking them out tonight.
I mean, they do what they do well, but it's like, all right.
It's like having a band called the Backstreet Girls.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you there's a million examples for this kind of thing, right? But I think it's the blues hammer.
It was a shame though that like there was all those horrible people there that were disinterested in the actual blues man. But Seymour still didn't get his record signed.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm like, surely the dude was just at the back door because no one gave a shit about him. I'm like, why didn't you get your record signed, bro?
Yeah,
that made me sad. He had a bad night and he didn't get his record signed.
He was depressed, and then he had dual allegiances of attempting to make a connection with this woman and then being absolutely horrified and disgusted by the band after him. He was too busy. He was more. So it tells you more about Seymour, that he was actually more interested in expressing his outrage and disdain for humanity than actually validating like one of his musical heroes and getting that, which actually would potentially be a windfall for him financially, because you see he does flip these records as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was so just like wrapped up in his like, why don't you have more children already?
Yeah.
But I feel that kind of rage
car scene
on just a visceral level. Just being like, why don't you have more children, huh?
No, I saw a woman at Publix with 7 kids accountant, and I'm like, Mormons.
I don't disagree. Let's be clear, but it just shows you like that level.
They're not always Mormons. They're just people who just don't stop. They're everywhere.
Economy? My God, shopping at Publix, that shit's expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it works.
Now we have
it's a little different around the world, but like the more kids you get, the more money you get. But like in Australia.
Yeah, not America.
We get.
We don't do that.
We give them TV shows though.
We give them like, here's a baby bonus because you had a baby.
That's good.
So $500 a baby, and then you get money from the government per baby as well.
Here we get money for nothing and chicks for free, so it's different.
Yeah, but they're cutting that down because it's like
people are abusing this.
We have legitimate, which makes me feel weird, but we have legitimate people who just have babies for money, which is gross. So they've cut a lot of that out.
Super chats are on. Send us your questions. We will adopt your baby.
Where's that button? Yeah, where's that button? Talk about monetization, am I right? Let me tell you. Hey.
Yeah.
No, but we had the child tax credit, which I think was a really good idea for a little bit during the pandemic, and then Democrats pulled that. But like, I think that was kind of a winning thing. I mean, it doesn't really help people that don't have kids that are struggling, but like, I do think that it was would have been a popular policy platform for a long time that would have actually helped a lot of people out. I mean, I don't know if people would start having kids I think they're just doing that anyway. So. Like,
yeah, I mean, they right now, adopt kids for money. So just like we're trying to do.
I would have, if I was old enough, I would have adopted poor Birch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would have adopted Enid. I'd be like, okay, snarky young female, you're now my daughter.
She like rebels against her own friend in this, which is kind of an interesting scene when when she's like, listen, we just have to dress up like yuppies. Like, obviously that's not who we are, but that's who they're selling apartments to. And she like almost like it's a parent. Yeah, almost like it's a parent or something, like completely self-sabotages that moment with the green hair and dresses up like a punk. Like that's
which I thought was so rad. I was like, fuck yeah, fuck those yuppies. You don't want to live in that shit fucking neighborhood. I was like, no.
It's also like almost like rebellion. I mean, she doesn't have a mother in this, right? She has a horrible looking lady that
yeah. But I love the dynamic and the way that they show her relationship with her father. He's so awkward and very inept. And just
horribly inept. Yeah, like it's kind of a weird combination of just wanting to see her do best but being kind of terrible at it at the same time.
Yeah. And the scene where she's like crying in bed and he comes in and he's like, he goes to open the door and he's like, pumpkin. Like he's just so awkward.
It's like using a broom and going there.
Yeah. He just has no idea what to do without obviously their mother.
I feel like though you can see a version of like, Seymour, if he had stayed with the woman he has nothing in common with and they had a kid. Like you could see him turning into her father, kind of like. Well,
even the stepmother. The stepmother had that same vibe.
Yeah.
That he was with her because he needs a woman, and that's the best he could get. So he's just putting up with it. Like the scene where Seymour's wearing those hideous jeans.
Oh my God, it's so amazing! I forgot about Nathan's scenes.
I don't
he tries to justify it too.
Someone in a pair of jeans.
He tries to justify, like, oh yeah, I guess they're all right. And
like they're mom jeans, aren't they?
And I think we've all I think people can relate because we've all seen our friends or families or uncles, aunties let go of their personal style or value because they're like, you know, their desperation for a partner takes over. You know, like it's even when she's, you know, she doesn't want him to hang out with Enid, and like isn't interested in the records, and, you know, starts to like push her agenda of what is cool on him, and he starts to like, you know, obviously give in because he desperately wants to have someone to love him. And it's like, so, you know, he takes those hideous genes and he like does those things, you know, and even when he's trying to justify it to Enid by like, oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah,
Well,
he's almost trying to justify it to himself too. At the
It's a
same time.
self-esteem.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's him trying to justify it to not only him but himself, but her. But because she's bringing it to light, it's kind of like makes it. It's he's like, oh, I'm really letting go of who I am just for this woman.
But there's there's also a self-esteem element to it that isn't just, you know, that he wants someone to love him, but like there isn't a I mean, like I've been in a relationship with like someone that's like, oh, I know how to dress. Like you should get these clothes, and it's not necessarily the clothes you want, but like there is a self-esteem element that's like, well, what the fuck do I know about like going shopping for jeans? Like maybe this is the jeans that are, you know, cooler. Maybe I look better in these jeans. Like, you know what I mean? Like there is a self-esteem element, I feel like, with details like that, not with like something like collecting records or like, you know what I mean? Like, but like with details like something that you just don't care about. Like, you know, like I'm not like a person that like, you know, functions that much with fashion. Like I'm like, I don't know what the fuck. So like there's an element of just kind of letting that part of it go. Like
oh God, I really thought with my ex, I really was like, dude, you can't mix match patterns. It's not the right time to be doing that right now.
I just think there's an element there of where it's okay to give advice and to be, but I think it's really rude and disrespectful to take a person and try and change them entirely like that. And I don't think and with Seymour, he was an amazing human. He didn't need her putting her fingers in trying to
and we've
make
all
her
known people like that, right?
He was trying to make, you know, she was trying to make him a mainstream acceptable person so that she can, you know, take him out with her friends and whatnot, and like, this is my dude.
And the guy that she's
like,
definitely phoning that is her like manager or whatever that's on the phone behind her, and they have that like,
oh, what a douche. Yeah.
that guy was that guy in American Psycho? That guy was in something that we've watched recently. The actor, he was in American Psycho, I think.
Yeah, you might be right about that. Yeah, like I think he was like one of the other brokers.
He was the guy he was doing. I'm pretty sure he's the guy he was doing coke with in the bathroom at the bar. That he's like, that's his friend that he's also having an affair with his.
That's it. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But my main fashion advice is you can't go wrong with band tees and distressed jeans.
There you go. I agree. But like what I was trying to get at is that we've all known both of those kinds of people, right? Like the pliant sponge that just doesn't want to like piss off the person that they feel like is like out of their league, or, you know, whatever, they just have low self-esteem, and someone whose like first instinct in a relationship is, cool, I like you, let me change everything about you now.
Yeah.
And they're both like personality types, and I think that it's, you know, it's cartoonish obviously, but it's there's a certain degree of reality to it that, yeah, I think it's actually portrayed fairly well. And I think I've seen some younger folks' takes on this movie that say it's too mean, and there are parts of it that definitely are. And, you know, like we've kind of danced around it, but there's definitely one that's just no. That's a no from me.
Yeah, but when this film was made as well, you got to remember it was before like
any of that. Yeah, before any of that was
all the PC perfect culture shit had come in hard. You know what I mean? Like even the stuff that the mullet guy says is just wouldn't fly if you tried to do that today.
But
like, you know,
actually,
you guys invented being gay. You guys invented being homos in Greece.
Yeah, and also the comments about from the video guy that he constantly talks to Enid about being a Jew and makes all the Jew jokes.
Yeah, he makes tons of Jew. But the actual mullet guy would be like that and more, and would continue to be, and like all of like these actual situations, like the situation with Seymour and Enid, does happen, and it isn't cut and dry and like cartoon villainy necessarily, but it is over a line morally for sure, and we treat that differently. And what we do now is we act like that it's, you know, this perfect world where that could never happen now, or should never happen, or you're a rapist if you do that. And like, okay, well, it's technically statutory rape. That's true. But there is like a little more nuance than all that. And I look, Trees Lounge. Have you guys seen Trees Lounge?
I don't know if I have actually. No.
Trees Lounge is amazing. It's crazily enough another Steve Buscemi movie where he he gets involved with a younger lady there too, but it's less comedic and more just sort of like
but even like the scene where she rocks up to his house and starts getting drunk and then tries to get him drunk, and it's kind of perfectly orchestrated where he's wearing his slippers and socks and he's like flatties and he's got a full dressing gown on, like. And, and he's got this girl, busty and short dress, just leaning all over the joint and like, and then next thing you know, they're getting it on. And then that awkward scene in the morning well, it's not really
where she looks like she's like 10, the way that it's lit too. That's one thing I like so much about it is that you get the lighting and everything from the night before. And she's like, oh yeah, she is pretty, looks almost like an adult. And then like the next morning, like, it's just like, oh no, she's a child.
Yeah. And the bit like immediately after they've had sex and he's like, cuddle, cuddle. And she's all like, oh shit, what have I done?
It's also, I guess, not technically statutory. I looked up because apparently I think this movie takes place in Seattle. And
it depends on the state.
You just had to look that up.
Yep. Technically,
if your Twitter enemies find this show and just excerpt that piece of it,
especially after I called someone out for literally saying that the other day.
yeah, checking on the statutory limits.
No,
but hold on.
He's a phebophile. Different things. So Trees Lounge is a similar movie, but it's a dark drama, and it's also the idea of it's. Morally, obviously, it's not okay before someone's like a fully formed adult to be able to engage in sexual relations, but it doesn't mean that they don't have autonomy themselves either. And so that's what makes it like, on the line. It isn't on the line, but it is on the line in the fact that it makes for a good narrative structure especially when you have the stakes of the fact that like she honestly likes him and he honestly likes her, but also
that's the thing, and she's now old enough. You know what I mean? Like, and she's actually
in your state. Forrest will report.
She's putting herself. She actually wants to be there. She wants to do this. She's not being coerced. He's not pushing her.
Doing the coercion or anything. Like she's
exactly.
One, which you don't really see in movies that often.
Yeah, she's doing the coercion and the seduction, and he's kind of like sitting back, kind of like, this is not quite right, but I'd love to. This is in my dreams, but I don't really want to do it in real life, but I do. And then she's like, bring it, come on, let's do this. And he's like, what 50-year-old dorky man like that would go, sorry, not happening. Like, I find that hard to believe. Even me, like if I'm like get to 50 and some hot friggin' little patootie is like parading around, and then like doing that.
It gets you drunk, not the other way around. It's like,
exactly.
It's like, hey, maybe don't get drunk in my house. She's like,
she's like, whoa, let's roll.
Well, it's interesting when we see these films. A lot of the times it's portrayed like where women in their 40s and 50s are having relations with much younger men to make themselves feel young again. And rarely do we see it with like men and much like older men and much younger women.
Yeah.
And you see it a lot in real life, but
I was gonna let it slide, but I agree.
I mean, the thing is though, is like there is actually kind of an age differential in a lot of Hollywood stuff where like as soon as you turn 30 in Hollywood, you all of a sudden are playing a mom. And like the opposite of like somebody who's like 50 or 60 as your husband, and it's just you see it all the time. It's just now we're all drunk and moving around.
Ooh, Hollywood Squares, let's go.
But
this is not my doing. I'm not in the mood for frivolity such as this right now. Serious business.
I'm having a good frivolous Friday.
But I do feel like we see it a lot, just it's not addressed like this and it's not as in your face. Because like I mean remember what's her name, she played She was that vampire in Buffy. She was like a high schooler, or she passed off as a high schooler at first, in like the first episode, and she became like a regular on the show.
Elizabeth Carpenter?
No. One of the vampires. She went on to Dexter.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Right after Buffy, she did a show where she was playing Michael Chiklis's wife.
Yeah.
So she like went from high school to being a mom, like almost immediately. And then
yeah, what is her name?
Speaking of being old, I have to start seeing a primary doctor now. And I'm like, fuck. They're like, Kristina, you're getting closer to 30. I'm like, well, thank you for letting me know that 30 means I'm getting old.
Julie Benz, by the way.
They send you a
Julie Benz.
letter. They send you a
Julie
letter. Getting
Benz,
close to
yeah.
like, alert, getting close to 30.
Yeah.
And Julie Benz is fantastic too.
I haven't gotten any alerts, and I'm bloody turning 42 next month.
They're like, you gotta get a wellness check. I'm like, no, I don't.
Well, the thing about Australia is time goes backwards, so you know.
Yeah, well, yeah. Some of us stay nice and youthful.
Can we exactly? Can we, if we're talking about time going backwards, can we just say that so the whole art class and like the pandering student to
Oh my god.
so the leading everybody towards like what she's looking for a teacher, and that like when this came out, the sort of heavy-handed like abortion metaphors were all like very much like, oh my god, whatever. And then seeing it recently is like, oh, all right.
The tampon in the teacup. And also it was that stereotypical art teacher that you want to punch in the face.
Oh,
I've had plenty of those art teachers.
God, I had oh my god, I love art.
I'm not a huge fan of found object art. Like, I find it so fucking lazy, but like lots of people get lots of money out of going that route. But she was the epitome of that stereotypical art like artist teacher that just painful.
Yeah, but it makes it really funny then when she's you're watching her watch the presentation, which is clearly bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's clearly a presentation that she just like kind of pulled out of her ass with the which is something that we probably have to discuss before this episode comes to a close, is the Cook's Chicken.
Yes.
Which is not a real restaurant, but Coon Chicken Inn apparently is. I didn't know that. I did a bunch of research into it.
Even I knew that one.
I don't know how that.
Well, that was the original name, is Coon Chicken. Yeah.
But like her bullshit presentation that she gives to her, and she's just listening, and you're like, is she gonna buy this? You're like, she sucks enough that she's gonna buy this. Like you kind of know that, but like the rest of the class is like, whatever. And it's hilarious to see like the shallowness or like the superficiality of her presentation, and then she's like, well, I'm convinced this is a great project.
Yeah, and there's like takes a beat where you're like waiting for the reaction, and then it's just like, of course you are gonna say that, But then by the same token, when Enid grabs the poster and puts it in the art, and it ends up in the art show that she doesn't go to, the teacher does stand up for you're like, well, it's art, and like, just because you don't like it doesn't mean that it needs to be taken down. And she does take a stance. It's just that Enid games the system after seeing, the other student game the system like over and over and over again, and it ends up backfiring because, of course, cancel culture's out of control, really.
Well, the teacher defends it the way like Glenn Greenwald or somebody would defend it too. She's like, this is censorship. You need to let me leave this racist art up there. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. And then, I feel like there's two kinds of
but that's how it used to be. That's how that was the argument before. Yeah. Because remember, that was the 90s. The 90s was all about censoring, Sister Souljah and like look, Live Crew, terrible, but they were definitely the victims of censorship.
Yes, and that was the 80s though. With the was it the parents who were against everything, led by Tipper Gore?
PMRC, Tipper Gore.
Yeah, and they had the big hearings with John Denver teamed up with the dude from Twisted Sister, D. Snyder.
D. Snyder. Yeah. And
to fight.
It's still hilarious watching. I mean, because I've watched it a bunch of times. Like, Dee Snider in front of fucking Congress.
Yeah.
Going back and forth. I still love that video.
I mean, Two Live Crew was late 80s and early 90s, to be explicitly clear. I don't know why I feel need to correct Andy about that, but like there was a lot of like, again, and if you want to talk about like Bill Clinton was encouraged to like find someone to basically attack so that like, he could look strong. And it's like, whatever, they're still doing the same thing now. But that was there was no moralistic intention of like, no, you're a good person if you are anti-racist. That didn't exist as far as popular societal constructs, but there definitely was hey, I don't like this, but it should, freedom of speech says that this should be out there and people should be react to it. You're not freedom from consequences, but it is freedom of speech.
Bill Clinton should have teamed up with Two Live Crew for the Oh Me So Horny remix.
Nasty's the wannabe.
We love you a long time.
It's a master party business, right? but I guess we're kind of dancing around the issue of like, yeah, wow. It's first of all, Coon's Chicken was real, right? And then like, and then it changed to Cook's Kitchen, and then like the whole.
I guess that didn't happen. And what I was reading is that it actually didn't change after that. They just shut it down at some point.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Yeah.
But the idea that like it just changed into something more acceptable, like it's not that restaurant necessarily, but that's a pretty common story within American capitalism.
I mean, look at Aunt Jemima, for example, like the history of Aunt Jemima. Go back to the early stuff that was obviously influenced by the oh crap!
I'm not a fan of Aunt Jemima's early stuff, but her later albums.
Yeah, no,
more of a first album guy. Yeah,
I can't believe they were like, we're removing an episode of Golden Girls because they're wearing mud masks, and I'm like, who the fuck asked for that? No one.
Community, one of the best episodes of Community, where he dresses like a drow, but they're like, dude, you're wearing blackface.
Yeah.
Off, and it's like,
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They even took out the episodes. The creators, the actors were like, we can't have these episodes on anymore. I'm like, but there's a self-awareness to the fact you're doing.
The whole joke is that it's highly offensive and the characters are so like out of it and like, I don't know, like narcissistic that they think they can get away with it.
Yeah.
But that's the problem.
Meg in blackface is fucking hilarious. I don't know.
But that's the problem, is that that's a show about dumb people for smart people, and it's harder and harder to get away with nuance now.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah.
But for our audio listeners right now, I pulled up a picture of so this is the original Coon Chicken Inn. The actual and they did it for the point of making sure that black people knew they weren't welcome in this part of Seattle. Like it wasn't just like, oh, we have kind of a racist logo. It was done so that the facade of the restaurant is the racist coon character logo. Yeah. And this is a picket outside of it where people are saying that it's unfair that they all look like white people. So I don't know. I thought this was the NAACP protest picture, but now looking at it, I mean, it might be
a lot of whiteheads.
a lot of Capobiancos, which is my mom's last name. It means whitehead.
But I mean, I don't know. Like I've been at, the grandparents of like a girlfriend or something, and being like, "Hey, what's up with this crockery?" Where it's like just like blatantly racist, and it's like, oh, those are antiques. I'm like, yeah, I know they are. Like Nazi memorabilia in the closet. I mean, like this is fucked up, man.
I remember growing up near a funeral home that had one of those lawn jockeys, sitting out in front of it.
There was a really good episode of, I'm not sure if you guys have ever watched Master of None, the show that Zari did. Yeah,
I watched it before it was canceled.
There was a really good episode.
Yeah. I saw him after he was cancelled. He came to Australia and he talked about that whole cancel thing and what exactly happened. And I reverted my decision.
He shouldn't have been canceled. I don't think the season's.
Yeah, I don't think he should have been cancelled. Yeah. When you actually hear the facts, he did actually not do anything wrong.
I think what was happening at the time is that cancel culture was starting to sweep up people that had awkward interactions. That's like, yeah, that sucks, but like it's not like you should never be able to work again from it, right? Like maybe you should have some kind of thing where you have a conversation with someone and you realize how to communicate better, but not like it's not like an offense where it's like, oh no, you should never be able to work again. And I feel like a lot of those cases were being swept up in the same thing as like someone who would like, like was a serial rapist or something. And those things were getting conflated for a long time because they, a lot of times like the more liberal media outlets, they made a lot of headway with those articles. You know what I mean? Like they got a lot of clicks from those articles. They were looking for more and more people to do that kind of with.
When people feel powerless, they're gonna go for whatever they can. It's actual mob rule. Like if people are gonna seek out catharsis if they have no means of justice. And that's the way it always has been and always will be. And it's really easy to understand. So the answer, if you really hate cancel culture, is bring justice into the picture. But no, we can't possibly have that because it isn't going to be like that. Oh, people are trying to apply their morals like the PMRC. Getting back to what we were talking about earlier about the cancel culture of the 80s, which was all the quote unquote moral quote unquote majority, which is Christianity and gone wrong. But it's also like if you have a situation where people feel like anarchy reigns, then all people have is just make the villain of the day. Who was it this time? Cool, get him, Butch.
It's also just as a collective, let's just be better people.
Well, that'd be
nice.
Just be better humans.
But I wanted to this facade on this building that was the symbol that they have in the movie, the Coon Chicken Inn symbol. So I guess what they did is both the NAACP and random civilians took it to court. And what they would do is they would literally just paint the facade a different color. So like first they painted it red instead of black.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, it's really fucked. And then they painted it blue instead of black. And they're like, it's just like a clown or something.
Look, it's totally different now.
And then they were handing out tire hubcap covers, like when they used to have the old like where you could just put the thing over it of the face, and people would put it on their car in order to like ward off black people coming to their neighborhood. And at one point someone stole one
Circle protection black.
So someone stole the hubcap off the car, and the judge was like, well, yeah, I can see why you did that. Just here's a small fine, just go home.
Yeah.
And that was like the first court case they had against Coon Chicken Inn.
I don't know the name of it. But the owner was white, right? And the staff were black. Is that correct?
No, they were all white. It was a white restaurant in a suburban.
I assumed it was called Coon's Chicken because obviously the stereotype of back in the 50s and stuff, like chicken was a huge thing that Black Americans were amazing at making. So I wasn't sure how kind of connected.
The guy wanted to make a white restaurant that served that, like, the kind of chicken that's stereotypically served in Black communities. He wanted to make it at a white restaurant with a white staff, but also it was in I was actually watching a weird interview where someone was talking about the original restaurant, and they were like really classist. So they were like, they were like the rich neighborhood in Seattle. They're like, oh, you didn't go down to the poor neighborhood in Seattle where that was, but it was like the poor white neighborhood, and then there was a poor Black neighborhood, and this was to get the Black citizens of Seattle, as the population of Black people going west increased after World War II. They wanted to make sure the Black people knew that they weren't welcome, so they put a giant facade of a stereotypical, incredibly racist Black face onto this in the middle of the street, so that people would know, like, hey, don't move here.
And then they used it again in the great movie CSA, which
the okay movie CSA. It's only okay, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It is conceptually 5 stars.
Absolutely.
3 stars, though, honestly. But yeah, it's an alternate history of like basically what happened if the Confederacy would have won. And then I believe
done as a documentary.
Yeah, it's done in a documentary with commercials. The commercials are what gets me.
Yes,
like, commercials are amazing.
The commercials is what makes the movie really.
Yeah. Is there a show that also does that right now? What is it? It's based on like a novel series, like an Amazon show. That's like if the Confederacy.
Talking about Man in the High Castle?
Yeah.
That's a Philip K. Dick book, and that's if the Nazis had won.
Oh, all right.
Very different.
I mean,
no, not
similar.
Are things that different?
Yeah, is it though? Here's the thing. That's one of my favorite books of all time. And I heard the show was only okay, so I haven't watched it because I
was told the same.
Who wants to watch a show about the Nazis winning?
I saw the first season. It's
My
got
grandmother maybe.
one of my favorite actors in it, and I would definitely watch more because I would watch that man read a phone book.
Which guy is it? Because there's two great actors in the
okay.
film.
It's I always
Yeah,
screw up his
sorry,
name,
sorry.
so bear with me. It's Carrie Tai. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I got to look it up. It's a long Japanese name.
Ah.
There you go.
Oh, this is gonna be fun.
Look that up.
This is gonna be good.
Just Google long Japanese name plus Nazi.
No, I mean just look up Mortal Kombat.
Come on, it's World War II humor. Come on, dude.
No, he was in Mortal Kombat. No, not that Mortal Kombat. That one.
Oh, Joe de la Funta?
No, Carrie Hiroyuki Tagawa.
There you go. That was
Who I,
our
like literally is I've seen him in just about everything. Like I would seriously if he read a phone book, especially if he read it at Shao Kahn.
just about everything some of the time.
Or Shang Tsung, sorry. if he read it at Shang Tsung, I would just be like in heaven.
Fantastic. Okay, so back to Ghost World. I think this is, even though it's a pastiche of different Clowes books, which, by the way, Daniel Clowes used to live over the hill from me in Oakland. And I would see him on my way to the coffee shop that was cool but not too cool. And he would, this one time, he was in the street going up and I was on the street going down, like, and we looked at each other and we like locked eyes. And he could tell that I knew who he was. And he had this, oh my God, please don't say anything. Please don't say anything. And I just smiled and nodded and moved on. Because I know he's exactly like, like Seymour, like one of his characters, right? Where he's just like, that would be hell for him. That would be absolute hell. But I am a huge fan of all his books. Even though Ghost World is a bit of a pastiche, 75 to 80% there, I would actually put it as one of the best comic book adaptations of all time because the feel is exactly what it needs.
It's captured perfectly as in film.
Yeah.
Guys, it's not season 1, by the way. Moon Kong.
Moon Kong. It's extreme comic. I forgot what that show was that for, but that's great. It definitely was for a show that did not involve the Nazis at all, and Andy brought in a completely unrelated film about Nazis in the moon. That
it was our Booksmart actor.
Nazis in the moon.
Yeah, Iron Sky, classic film. Watch it.
Yeah, classic. Anyway, so but Clowes is very much like a Seymour type, like
absolutely
in his way, and God, what a perfect role for Steve Buscemi too, and
and he owned it. He did it perfect. Like he completely owned that role. Everything about it, and I love just those tiny little nuggets, like him having to wear the lumbar support, and all those things to remind you, who this man is, and and reiterate like those things.
So, all right, this is for Kristina and Renee. So, Kristina, you first. Steve Buscemi, sexy in this?
Yeah.
Renee?
I would probably do him from any film because I have this.
Yeah.
It's his personality, warmness, and character that sucks me right in.
Yeah.
He's a good actor. I'd forgotten that he was on The Sopranos.
And he's actually a great person from all accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a firefighter.
He's a firefighter, and he gives so much back to community and whatnot. There's something about him that's cuddly and warm and feels like home. That's how I feel about him.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, sure. Very funny.
Come on, please. Becky and I have been dying to go in here, but we can never find any boys to take us.
I could never picture anybody else in this film. Steve Buscemi was the guy, and I always thought of him as somewhat funny looking. And then my wife heard me talking on the phone to him one day, and she said, "That's Steve Buscemi on the phone?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, "There's only one guy in Hollywood you have to worry about leaving me alone in a room with. It's Steve Buscemi." She said, "I couldn't care less about Harrison Ford, Brad Pitt, any of those guys." It's like, and I think, my wife's a little weird because she's with me anyway, but every woman I've ever talked to has a thing for Steve Buscemi.
Have I been saying it wrong my entire life? Is that how you say it?
No, I think it is Steve Buscemi. Yeah. Everyone says it wrong. There's so many different ways to say
I don't
things.
know. I think
oh my god, I keep forgetting that one time when Bill Skarsgård was on with Stephen Colbert, and they always have to talk about his resemblance because I'm like, are you sure Stellan Skarsgård is his father? I'm like,
did you take a paternity test?
He's got a bigger head. He's a dad. When you look at him when he's younger, you can totally see it.
Yeah,
he's grown into a bigger man with a bigger head, like some dads do.
Bill Skarsgård looks more like his mother, surprisingly, who's got these big eyes and all that. So that gets the Buscemi look.
And
but
Alexander's like, I think Alexander's hot as well as Bill in different ways.
How about his head size? What's his head size?
Both their head sizes are
like the Skarsgård, like
Skarsgård scale. They're both in proportion.
The Skarsgård scale. Let's go.
Because they're really tall and skinny, and their dad is more built, not tall, skinny. You know.
I know that one film that Bill Skarsgård's could be doing very, very soon. He got ripped, and I'm like, ooh.
But he's still thin. He's still a thin, small build, person. But like early Steve Buscemi as well, he was actually a really attractive dude.
Yeah,
like very cool.
They always use like the younger photos of him.
Living in Oblivion.
Reminds me of Peter Lorre, but like a more normal looking Peter Lorre. But there's just something about his like eyes to the rest of his face ratio that I always feel like there's a slight resemblance between Peter Lorre, who's honestly one of the greatest actors of all time, and Steve Buscemi, who is too. Like maybe it's an actor thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think. There's a few films when he's a lot younger where he's just really gorgeous, and then there's Living in Oblivion when he's got the long hair.
Living in Oblivion, which is one of the best movies about making a film ever. Like it's
great, great film. And and he has long hair in that one. And he's a lot younger, and he's just a cool dude.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, there he is. There's young snack Steve Buscemi. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is it Buscemi or Buscemi? I don't know. I don't know.
Now. If he's saying Buscemi, he's probably right.
Yeah,
but I feel like
I think if you do it like in an Italian way, it's like Buscemi. I don't think they
Buscemi. Steve Buscemi.
I don't think they do I feel like that's it's our invention as a American society a little bit more.
Yeah, I wish I knew. I mean, as someone who's constantly had his first name pronounced wrong his entire life, I like to pronounce names right when I can, as long as I know.
I've heard people say it both ways. So I don't know.
Well, maybe it's like we're talking about. We're talking about.
Is the spell right on the check? That's all I care about.
I'm going to say it wrong. We're talking about ex machina. That's how Australians say it.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
But apparently it's ex machina or whatever the hell. But we say ex machina. So it just depends where you are.
Well, but the thing is, it's
how literal.
I don't care how you say it, Jerry. I don't care about pronunciation.
I think Garland did that on purpose because if you think about it, like machina, right? It's artificial intelligence, right? And then it's there's that. I think it's clever to build in. Oh man, I don't know if I want to go there with this. Not it's using spoken language in a way that makes a better reference. So, for example, this is Silence of the Lambs. When Lecter's talking about I eat his liver with a fine Chianti
and fava beans,
yes, but the important part is the wine. It's an Amarone in the book, and that was changed because it's an indication of the type of antidepressants he's on and that he's off his meds, because you cannot actually have the lipids that are in red wine, specifically in a Chianti rather than Amarone, cause a reaction that apparently make you not able to articulate yourself or something. But it's a really deep reference. So director of Silence of the Lambs, Demi, right, change that, or the scriptwriter, I don't know which one, to make it like even more clever in the fact that it's an indication that Lecter's off his meds. And you only know that if you're like a foodie or like big into like a sommelier, right? Like who's big into wine pairing or something along those lines. And I thought that was sure. And I thought that was so great that when I did the record about Hannibal Lecter, Art of Murder, copies almost not available, only 6 copies left. that I threw that in as a reference because it's a certain indication of using wordplay to make another reference that goes deeper than the original reference. So henceforth, ex machina or ex machina is exactly that. So whatever that is, write us, maybe send it as a super chat. I'm dying to drop that knowledge if you have it, because I don't have it, and I've referenced it in songs.
By the way, the only reason why I know how to correctly pronounce sommelier is because my uncle really, really, really likes wine, and he turned that into becoming one.
Oh yeah.
so he works as a, well, I mean, he doesn't really work, but he's like registered as a sommelier. I guess it's like a course that you have to pass.
Well, the point is you'd have to be someone of whatever that vocation is pronounced to be able to understand that reference and to get that level. But that's a, you know, going for the cheap seats sort of change up in the script that also Garland's a smart guy. Maybe that was maybe people, because what's Latin, right? It's or is
it Greek?
I think it's Latin, where it's machine. Well, there's it's machine of God is the actual saying, right?
Yeah, it's like a theater expression from like back in the Greek and Roman times.
Meaning that there's a solution that comes from like a quote unquote divine source, meaning that the writer had writer's block or something.
Yeah,
right?
Deus ex machina.
Yeah, but like it looks like machina, and it's about artificial intelligence.
Yeah,
so
which is also why they named that comic book Ex Machina the same thing by Brian K. Vaughan and I'm blanking on the artist because I love him. But there was that comic book series about the guy who could speak to machines, and he's now mayor of New York City. And the twist is on 9/11 he only saved
Michael Bloomberg.
No. But the twist of the whole series is that
he talks to the machine.
That's where the Bloomberg terminal came from. Actually, yeah.
He used his superpowers to become mayor. Him being superhero become mayor because he saved one of the towers on 9/11.
Gotcha. Okay, so God from the machine
using his cop powers to convince everyone to like the guy with CTE.
Look, this wasn't the super cop I signed up for.
I've got a question for Andrew, because you obviously know the source material well.
Watch him perk up. Oh yeah.
What were your thoughts on the betrayal of Josh in the film? Because I don't know if many people know or you guys know, but originally in the film, Enid actually sleeps with Josh, and he actually has way more scenes in the film. And they decided to delete him sleeping with Enid and some of the other scenes because they felt like it would complicate the whole idea of him, like her then sleeping with Seymour, and that it would kind of make people dislike Enid, like by them having this kind of love triangle. So all of the scenes where Enid actually hooks up with Josh were deleted. And I'm just wondering, because he doesn't have many scenes throughout the film that are that poignant, where he is quite more in the book.
It does put more stress on the he's just a guy we like to torture line.
Yeah.
Seeing who Josh is. But
Yeah. But you still get this strong feeling that obviously Enid is attracted to him. He's attracted to her. But then you can also tell, that Scarjo, got her name, is also attracted.
Was she ever anything else? Or was it just this?
No, she's been in plenty, but it's just Scarjo to me. But and she obviously is attracted to Josh. And had also, if they had have kept those scenes in, there would have been complications, obviously, then with Seymour, and complications even more so then between the girls.
I'm going to be totally honest with you. I've never read the full Ghost World in Order. I've read random issues of what was his book? Was Optic Nerve? Was that what it was published in? Yeah, Optic Nerve. I've read a bunch of random issues, and so I'm familiar with it. I've looked at I've thumbed through all the graphic novels and watched videos on the art because
Optic Nerve is Tomaine, by the way, who's like junior Daniel Klaus.
Okay, no, what was Shit, what was that anthology?
You're thinking of
Eight Ball. Yes,
Andy, you're the resident comics guy. What the fuck's happening?
You know, I'm
I mean,
sitting
the
there-
question also goes out to everybody. I mean, how with that being, that was going to be quite a big part of the film. Like, how would that have changed your view of the film had it been basically she hooks up with Josh prior to Seymour? You know what I mean? And
Eric
like
Adams. I just wanted to add that.
but it also like there's that. I think that's why that tension is there, because it was all filmed at the same time, obviously, and then they just decided to delete it later, which sort of is why there's some weird tension in certain parts with Josh, like especially when Enid comes and stuff. There's a bit of awkwardness. But yeah, the main reason they deleted it was because they felt that the audience would lose respect and sympathy for Enid, because she kind of just seemed like she's using them both.
Yeah, like it and then the impact is more when her and Seymour.
When it's just Seymour, yeah.
Well, sometimes you find the movie in the editing room too.
Yeah.
I find this show in the editing room.
Yeah.
Well, but
because I mean, I thought it was heading down the first time I watched it. I thought it was heading down the track that she was going to hook up with Josh.
I think if it came out now, it would be
At some point.
because it's like at an hour 40 minutes or something. This film, but like if it came out today, I think people are just
be 4 hours long. And
people longer movies are just the norm now, and I personally don't care for it. But sometimes it's justified, but most of the time it's just like
I finally saw Eternals and it was so boring.
I'm still watching Eternals.
I have something called ADHD, which makes it hard for me to sit there for that amount of time in one place. So the whole long movie trend, not something that I love.
Yeah. I'm fine either way. I love being in another world, so I get completely immersed. Throw me 50 Lord of the Rings films and I'll watch them all in one weekend. Like
Lord of the Rings justifies it, I think. But like the Batman movie, man, if you dropped a half hour off that, it would have been a better film, man. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
No, but I
didn't have the chemistry of rocks together.
I didn't
need to see a
enjoy
million scenes.
I didn't enjoy the Batman film.
No,
I'm still watching that too.
Weirdly, I liked it about as much as Matthew Film Guy, which is to say not very much, but it's I don't like talking
I was incredibly disappointed. I was like, this is supposed to be some goth version of Batman. Yeah, this is piss weak. And it's way too long and just dragged out. And
there were some great moments in there, and like it could have been a better film.
Yeah, drop
100%.
about an hour off it.
You got Mr. Broody there, and you're like, oh, it's so great. He had to listen to The Cure in order to get ready for this film. Well, show us some fucking goth then, mate. Because there isn't any in here. You're just a weenie whiner.
I do like that he at least brought the detectiveness to it. That's if I'm going to force to say something nice. But
like I said, but like they didn't need the Joker scene. That didn't add anything.
Stupid. It's just it's
No.
it's an inessential movie that a lot of people seem to like, and I'll be surprised if it makes my top 23 list because I'm starting to do it instead of top 10.
There's some films that just tick certain boxes that people love, but they don't offer that much. Like, I hate to say it, but like the Superman films really just like are just blah, 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 over and over again to me. I just like I can watch them while I'm doing something else when they're on the TV, but like to me they're not like.
I like the daughter Superman films, like the Christopher Reeve ones. Those are like
Christopher Reeve, old school. We're talking old school 80s Superman. That's when they knew how to do shit. But like
they did that. What was it? It was a Man of Steel. Was that first most recent one? I saw it in 3D, right? But the 3D, one of the scenes involved him throwing the baseball to the dog. Where I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now? That's one of the 5 3D scenes in this piece of shit movie.
I mean, if they had the dog exploding after he hits his, throws the ball to the dog, then that would have been worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Then it would have been worthwhile. Like, how do you have that movie sucked.
A show that seemed to do a lot of I didn't watch the new Batman movie, but a show that seems to do a lot of that kind of fan service, like that I liked but did it a lot was Gotham. I felt like often tried to pigeonhole like way too many references.
By the way, Kevin Spacey is Lex Luthor in that film. I forgot about that.
I swear to God, if this Warner Brothers Discovery Plus merger gets rid of the Harley Quinn series, I will have my Joker arc, and by that I mean running for mayor as a badass socialist.
Which, Kristina,
I always forget you're a huge Harley Quinn fan.
Yeah.
Upon your recommendation, I did actually start watching that cartoon. It is indeed pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, wait till when Joker runs for mayor. He's like, I'm not like a socialist. I am a socialist.
I just posted
healthcare.
that clip today because DSA posted that clip. That was like, I'm not like a socialist. I am a socialist. And I was like, yeah.
No, sure. Joe Bros. No, we like to call ourselves the Sane Clown Posse.
Hey, everybody. That cartoon is good though, so like I'm super into it. Thank you for the recommendation. Another recommendation I have is for everyone to go to the website letterboxd.com, a social media site for film lovers who talk with and to each other about the films that they love, the films that they didn't love. See the Batman review, the films that made them weirdly thirsty for the titular character that I'm now completely unsure about the last name pronunciation of.
Buscemi.
All of these things, bottom-up democracy. It's no Siskel's and Eberts. Everyone gets to have their say, best expressed in the one-liner format. These are the Letterboxd one-liners for Ghost World. Roll them, Forrest. I also love telling people to kill themselves.
This is me.
Princess Diana. Nice.
Yeah,
badass.
the whales, yeah.
Reviewing from the grave.
This is literally me. I also love telling people to kill themselves.
I've seen your Twitter. I know.
I'm banned on Twitter because I told too many people to go kill themselves.
I pass out the suicide hotline number whenever I feel like somebody needs to do that. So I kind of do the opposite.
Yeah,
you're the yin and yang.
There was this debate or something that happened recently where somebody ended up tweeting out a picture of this debate, and they were like, what Forrest Miller really does is he tells anti-fascists to go kill themselves. I was like, that's like 1% of what I do.
I do so much more.
I do so much other stuff.
Right. Move on. Next. Some people are okay, but most days I feel like poisoning everybody.
Yeah.
Well, if they're not going to kill themselves.
Exactly. Just I have no notes. That's how I felt at that age too.
Yeah.
What happened to all the misanthropes? Or is it just podcasters now?
Sorry, but love it.
Yeah.
I feel seen.
Fair point. Yeah.
You have to laugh at yourself. If you have no sense of humor and you can't laugh at yourself, you should just jog on.
I'm misanthropic towards a lot of podcasters though too. Like I am one.
Hey, you should see me earlier in this show.
I just don't have energy. Yeah, I just don't have energy for anger against podcasters. I don't understand podcast beefs. I think they're so silly.
Well, I mean, most of it is just people trying to get views from other people, right? Like they're like, oh, if I come at somebody, then people like it's audience consolidation, and I've been noticing that a lot with people, and it's like nonsensical because a lot of the people that I follow that are doing podcasts, like it's political, which I don't really like political podcasts, but like I end up in that realm. And a lot of people are just like, hey, this person's the same audience. Let me vaguely make up something about a political beef so I can just try to take their audience. It is what it is.
Thank you for podsplaining that.
Podsplain America.
Chekhov's nunchuck guy. You introduce a nunchuck guy in the first 15 minutes, he needs to have attempted to strangle someone with them by the last act.
Oh, yeah.
True.
Chekhov's. You could just say Chekhov's nunchucks, but I appreciate the attempt.
Would you like to comment on that review with your notes? Maybe that would be.
I have notes.
Masterpiece. Never knew I needed a movie where Scarlett Johansson talks about the miracle of masturbation, while Redditor Steve Buscemi impresses young girls with his vinyl record collection.
Yeah,
it's great that this is like 2001 because you know that Steve Buscemi was still around hanging out like that character like a decade later on Reddit. You know what I mean? Like this.
Yeah. but he probably ran the this classic vinyl 78 Reddit subreddit. You know. Speaking of which, follow Movie Night Extravaganza on Reddit. It's on the crawl on below. There's like 5 people in there, but anyway.
One of them is Seymour.
I've never yelled no so loud at a kiss scene before. Cute outfits though.
I felt like it was earned. I don't know. I mean, I would have yelled no if Steve Buscemi was weird about
It
it.
just sounds like she's ageist.
Yeah.
Or Steve
Right.
Buscemi-ist.
3 stars?
Only 3 stars too. Yeah.
Fuck you, Elise.
Yeah.
You
Fuck
only
you,
have
Elise.
2 likes.
In the bin.
So you only have 2 likes on this review. Jesus Christ.
One of them's me.
You should probably kill yourself.
It's probably her 2 friends.
People in the 90s were so cool and mean. See my entire vibe on this show. Thank you.
I was born in the right generation, but
Yeah,
maybe
fuck
a little bit too late. Like,
The 90s were sensational. I hands down.
Who do we
Best
we
time.
didn't know at the time. It seemed terrible, but yeah, in retrospect it was
No, at the time we didn't realize how rad we were having it.
you didn't
And
realize
so
you were
now-
twirling towards freedom.
Mm-hmm.
you either die in Enid or you live long enough to see yourself become a Seymour.
Too real.
Suddenly Seymour.
That is a musical you cannot do without me.
Little Shop of Vinyls.
Oh, bless you, Louise.
Taking away 1 star because I don't like to see anything bad happen to Steve Buscemi. That's my friend
Oh.
Louise from Letterboxd. Don't say anything nice, anything mean about her either.
No, but it is
No, I
funny.
didn't.
to-
I said bless
Yeah.
her. I love her.
Nah, I was
We
talking
love-
to these dicks. Yeah,
No, she needs more friends. More. I need to go there and like her.
yeah. Louise is
But like,
great.
but like there is that like montage, I guess, on YouTube, like a bunch of them of like every time Steve Buscemi dies in a movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that like because he dies in like a lot of the movies that he's in. So I do like to imagine her watching all of the Steve Buscemi movies and then going 1 star off, 1 star off, 1
Yeah,
star
it's
off.
knocking 1 star off each one. She
Like
can-
4-star Fargo.
exactly. Dear
Yeah,
Josh.
she probably means more mean things.
Exactly, I think so.
They put him in a wood chipper. That's pretty mean. I don't know.
It is pretty mean. You're not wrong about that. Dear Josh, we came by to fuck you, but you were not home. Therefore, you are gay. Signed, Tiffany and Amber. All-timer. Amazing. Those are the Letterboxd one-liners for Ghost World. Please follow Moon Knight Extravaganza on Letterboxd. That's your host, Forrest Miller, over there. Follow me, Conan Nunchuck Guy Neutron, at Conan Neutron. I'm all over that biz. J. Andrew, I'm all verklempt. Everything's all weird. J. Andrew Ghost World down below me. Watching all the most baffling stuff in the world, so you don't have to, or maybe you can later, depending on how he recommends it.
There's a few gems I found.
Right about now, 2. Right, it's got 2
Yeah.
at the end of it. Why is it a
There's
2?
just
By the
two.
way, have I ever asked you? that?
Basically
care
on
about the answer.
Twitter, it was already taken. So
I don't. It's okay. That's all right. That's like why someone ends up with like right about now 420 69 69 or something. Where it's
Yeah,
like, no,
basically,
it was already taken. Really? Did you have to do 420 69 69? Okay, thank you. I'm Kristina, also on Letterboxd, specializing in all the Johnny Depp catalog and everything else. Please follow.
Yeah, I know Renee are like that.
She's got it. She's got her lane, and she owns it, folks.
Mhm.
And of course, the lovely Renee Ruin, who doesn't come on the show nearly enough, is also on Letterboxd. Renee Ruin, host of the Night Shift, and many other things that I'm not even going to bother trying to say right now.
I said he was
Andrew.
on the list.
Yeah, I didn't. I was too busy rebooting my computer unsuccessful. J. Andrew Ghost World, take us away with the plugs, please.
All right. First of all, just because we can, I want to say happy birthday to 3 of our past guests who all share a birthday today. Jason Miles, Amy Bell, and Matthew
Wow.
Film Guy. Happy birthday. We love you.
Birthday.
We'll see you soon.
They should all cage fight for that happy birthday. They should all have to like fight each other in a cage. Whoever like gladiator style, whoever comes out on top gets our full 100% happy birthday.
To get her full birthday wishes. That's the reward. You get the full birthday wishes.
Man,
Right now, you only
army's
get
gonna be
1/3. It's
jumping.
33.3333333333%.
Yeah, we are on
That was
YouTube.
a good bit. Does anyone not like decimals? I love decimals. Anyway, go.
Yes, decimal bits are funny.
Decimal bits are great. I love math. Anyway,
Yeah, we're on YouTube. Do the YouTube things, like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell. And the big thing is watch the video to the end so other movie lovers can find us. And we, as a bonus, we're not going to be like listing off names, but you get that sweet Conan Neutron song at the end. So go for that. If you are enjoying this, but you'd rather, you just don't have time to be sitting down in front of your computer and watching this live like some people do, and there's no problem with sitting down at the computer watching it live because that's also fun. But sometimes you just want to listen to something while you're exercising or washing dishes. We have it as a podcast form, so you can do that as well. Wherever you get your podcasts, please find us, subscribe us, give us a 5-star review because that helps other people find us as well.
I try to explain visual gags for the podcast audience because I feel like it's important as someone that would much rather listen to a podcast than watch something on YouTube. And I do that with my own show as well, but I feel like it's a dying art. People that just make visual gags, and it's like hearing a live record where you hear a crowd cheer for no reason. You're like, what the fuck happened? Like, did somebody do something funny? Like, what happened? I think anyway, whatever. Yes.
Yeah. Well, during that bass solo after he throws the bass guitar up in the air, nobody, the guitarist is there going, our bassist just threw the bass guitar up in the air.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you have to do on a live record now. It's closed caption for the hearing impaired.
Exactly.
Why are you at a show? Get it? Hearing impaired? Anyway, whatever.
So we have a Patreon.
Girls before swine, everybody. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
We have a Patreon. With that Patreon, that helps us out a lot, but also gives you access to all of our back after parties, like back issues. You can flip through it like vinyl.
After parties.
Yes. But you can always after party forever.
Party forever.
Oh yeah, I think we're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah. We'll have it on lock by the time we do episode 200.
And make sure, while you're doing things, Kristina has a Patreon. Check that out. But she also has a wonderful Twitch channel where she does. She talks about all the things, so you can get Harley Quinn as well as all the Harley Quinn you want.
Yeah,
and
spooky
all the news you want.
Spooky season coming up, so cosplays are coming up. So woohoo! Also, too, guys, if and when we ever review Birds of Prey, because I know Conan loves that movie as much as I do, I will cosplay as Harley Quinn. I really want to again.
It's popular amongst the fans and me.
But yes, like and subscribe.
I'll watch another
her on Twitch.
You'll love it.
If you like the Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey is very much in line with it. Like it's a little less nihilistic and big as far as like production goes, but it's the sense of humor is exactly there. Yeah. It's a good movie.
I didn't like Suicide Squad as much as I like my Kill Yourself Squad.
I mean, look at the poster. Look at her. I have it. Booyah. Ta-da. Yeah. So
she did a good job. I'm not.
Wait. Show it, Kristina. Show it real quick. If we're gonna do this, let's do it right.
Yeah. Booyah.
All right, there you go.
There you go.
She
and look at I got all the I got like 7 Harley Quinn Funko Pops. It's ridiculous.
We believe you.
Is that an Amanda Connor drawing? I couldn't quite tell.
What?
You're taking your own plugs off track, Andy.
Yes, I'm doing that because right now I do need to plug Conan.
Good job. I'll go over there and slap the paintbrush out of your hand or whatever you're doing with.
Yeah. Who has a great show, Tonic Reversal. You might have heard of it, especially if you're watching us live, which it says right behind him.
That's a good visual gag. Yeah.
Yes. There we go.
Podcast listeners, Conan Neutron has his show logo behind him.
Yeah, and what was the album you were talking about? Because you could get that on Bandcamp and order one of the last 6 copies.
The Art of Murder. It's
the Art of Murder.
Yeah, the second Conan Neutron.
Man, everyone's getting into like killing and murder tonight. I love it.
It's a concept record about Hannibal Lecter. What I'm going to tell you, which we've never done any Hannibal Lecter movie. So
no, we haven't.
We should.
Anything dead, dying, being killed, anything related to that, I'm all about. Serial killers, whatever.
We do have.
I want Silence of the Jams with Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler playing You know,
Sounds
Dead.
like jams.
Sounds of the Jams. Not bad. That's good.
All right.
Solid.
But I was going to actually ask Conan, who did you have on this week?
Chat Pile. So the incredible band from Oklahoma, the doomy sludgy noise rock band. They're people are talking about them more and more. And actually, this one, Stevie in the chat was on for that one. It was a really good show. And they're a really good band. And again, I don't just have legacy artists on or people that are too esoteric. But yeah, I rarely have a whole band on because it can get really chaotic. But we went through the God's Country. Yeah, Manhunter's the best one, I think. Well, Silence than Manhunter. But the yeah. I mean, it's I don't normally have full bands on, but it worked really well. It was good. I think.
Fantastic. So. And you can also subscribe to his Patreon. And with that, you get episodes early. So that's exciting.
Right. While I was doing that, this is like my life. I was also changing my name to Silence of the Jams. So apparently that's too many characters. Let me see.
Okay. And Renee, you have a movie podcast now, don't you? It's,
yeah. So,
the Night Shift, right?
The Night Shift, yeah, which is basically going to be. We've kind of decided to keep it. We're kind of building a coven of sorts. So it's myself and Bonnie Burton and Jenna Hayes, who's a very well-known ex porn actress, who is just her insights are just incredible. So at the moment, yeah, we've just done the 2 films. So we did X and Men, and then we have quite a long list of films as well. So it's a bit of a fun thing, but definitely kind of very much a female version of things. So we have actually a lot more men who seem to watch it and enjoy hearing our different views from different women. So yeah, it's going really well.
A bunch of Seymours in that audience.
Yeah, I hope so.
Of course, from the show Bonnie Burton, we love Bonnie as well. So.
Yes,
and Jenna brings a lot of possible Seymours with her.
We should probably get her on the show at some point.
There's always some interesting
possible Seymour.
But yeah, that's going really well. And yeah, so that's going good. Yeah, my book's been out for a little while now, and so that's I've gone through.
Forward by Mark Lanigan, R.I.P.
Yes, Forward by Mark Lanigan, and so that's I've got that in some bookshop here in Melbourne, and it's also shipping around the world at the moment. So yeah, I've already done 2 giant print runs, so hopefully that keeps on kicking.
Fantastic. I also just realized I forgot to ask about Conan's tour dates that are coming up.
Yeah, you sure did. Oh, yeah, just remember that, huh? Yeah, so the 72-point headline is that we're playing 3 shows in McCluskey on the West Coast. We're doing Oakland, Portland, and Seattle, but then we also have, I think, like 9 other dates for that, also West Coast. I have some East Coast dates coming up in early October as well, but the important thing with the McCluskey dates is tickets are going fast. So if you like McCluskey and or want to attempt to heckle me, notice my emphasis on attempt, and see my band play, Conan, Neutron, and the Secret Friends, then you should definitely buy tickets immediately because they're going fast. And it's McCluskey's. It's the Do Dallas 20-year anniversary for this tour. It's the first time that they played the U.S. since the initial time they were around. So yeah, don't think you can just saunter up and get tickets because you're not going to be able to. Also, for Chicago listeners, a Chicago show next Friday that I may or may not see Kenzo and Ravana at. I'll believe when to see it. And we're going to be in Louisville again on January, September 1st. What the fuck am I thinking about? Yeah, and so you can find all that stuff, where you normally find that stuff. And we'll have vinyl from this nomenclature.
How long are you on tour for, Conan?
Like 2 weeks. They're doing a bunch of Fakakta musicals while I'm gone, I guess. So,
Yeah.
We're doing Rocky Horror, which is good.
It's the after party forever.
What is the theme musicals?
No,
I think it's just they're trying to figure out stuff I don't like, and I'm like, yeah, I don't like almost any musical except for Singing in the Rain. And
I guess Rocky Horror.
I like Rocky Horror. It's
Yeah,
fine.
I like Rocky Horror, but it's not something that I watch regularly.
That's Renee speaks for me.
Yeah.
Sweeney Todd, I'm like, I don't care
mean,
about that. It's fine.
I
Whatever.
can watch Footloose like 5,000 times with Kevin Bacon, but I actually don't like people singing at me. I find it quite off-putting.
Yet you like shows. How interesting.
I love live music, but I hate movies singing at me in
Yeah, I don't know why.
conversation.
I didn't make up this rule of they do musicals while I'm gone, but they definitely do musicals while I'm gone. So
yes, we've done one musical while you were gone. I haven't checked the chat. I was sleeping earlier.
But you can't do Little Shop of Horrors without me. Either one, because I love that movie. So there you go. So there's two.
Yeah, Little Shop of Horrors is a cool one.
Yeah, we'll do that one when you're not available, Conan.
He's Steve Buscemi.
Anyway, yeah. So come see my band McCluskey. Thank you.
Yes, and I believe those are the plugs. Unless anybody else says a plug I forgot.
Final thoughts time.
Going once, going twice. Final thoughts coming right up. Forrest,
right.
over to you.
Well, starting with Renee, let's hear some final thoughts.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, as I said, I think this film is an incredibly well done, articulated film that's come from a graphic novel that's basically vignettes that don't really have a clear tie-in, and I think that both the director and Daniel Clowes did an amazing job of turning it into a film, even if it did take quite a long time to do so. I think that, and everything about it, I think they did really well and very tactful, especially the things involving Seymour. The casting, you can't argue with it. The aesthetics are like totally drool worthy. And Enid, I just fell in love with everything to do with her culture and the art stuff, everything she loves. Just everything that encompassed her personality, I really enjoyed. And then I also enjoyed the way they tackled, that kind of those awkward and tough times when you're growing up, and how the complications that seem minute probably to adults, but are quite dramatic when you are that age. And then that whole transformation that happens when you do finish high school and you need to think about what you want to do, and you're torn between those things. You kind of get the feeling that Enid wants to continue where she is at, and whereas ScarJo, sorry for keep forgetting her name, really wants to move on.
In anything else, or was this the only movie she was in? She was in other stuff.
Really, to won a Tony Award.
It gets stronger every time you say it.
I just she's always ScarJo to me, but she's going off in a different direction, and she wants to be, sort of this mainstream grown up, and is ready to let go of, all of the weirdness and all of the fun and stuff that kind of there. And I think we've all been there, where we sort of had to deal with that coming of age, growing up, and trying to take the direction in where you want to go. And there's just so many small parts in this movie that probably to some people seemed irrelevant, but I think were really beautiful and key, like the old man sitting on the bus stop.
Oh yeah, how do we even not talk about that? You're right. Yeah,
apparently it was played by Crispin Glover's father, which is interesting.
What?
Yeah. And the fact that he sort of almost given up himself, and he's sitting there waiting for something to come and happen to him, and then they kind of make fun of him for waiting for that bus, and then one day that she sees the bus does come, and of course then that brings you to the ending of the film where she speaks to Seymour, and in the hospital, and says you're an idiot, like you're my hero, like look at all this other stuff I was doing, and then you get that real sense of closure when both the girls sit down at the front of the hospital, and they hold hands, and she's like, give me a call, and you get the impression that they're never going to speak again. That's it, like it's the end. And then Enid then goes off and decides pack her bag and go wait at the bus stop and take the bus, and you just sort of have no clue like where she's headed or what's happening for her. And then then you also have that scene with Seymour where he's in therapy and he's obviously now living with his mother, which I know a lot of people have speculated that he tried to commit suicide, and that was what had happened past that. And then he goes to live with his mother and he talks about getting his life back. So it's a kind of bittersweet, but also there's a bit of sadness and in the ending. And I think that's kind of important because that is real life and that is what happens in real life. So they didn't give us like a fluffy wrapped up with a bow ending. And, it's kind of left to you to kind of think about what you think, Enid's next adventure
Godot
is.
finally showing up with that bus. He's waiting for
What's
Godot. I said, except Godot finally showing up with that bus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of,
there's a play called Waiting for Godot, and he's
and the movie Waiting for Guffman, which is like a comedic Christopher Guest.
Yeah. So he's sitting on the bench the entire movie, and the person never comes, and they're waiting. Yeah, I feel like that's what we're kind of playing off of.
Yeah, and it's almost like you're waiting. I feel like especially with the old man, it's like waiting for your life to happen.
Yeah.
Or he's waiting for death, and Enid killed herself at the end of the movie, and that's why she drives
well,
off.
That's one big theory.
And wait your fucking turn.
No, but what he said
but
is
that's
correct.
why mermaids for this movie.
that was one theory, and Daniel Clowes and also Zigoff did come out and both say that is absolutely not true, and there was that she did not kill herself, and that was not the intention. So, but that is a fan theory.
That would have been an ending a lot like Go Ask Alice or whatever, where at the end of it they just read a note and they're like, she killed herself at the end of this.
Yeah,
and,
that'd be like if Todd Solondz did this movie, and that's how it ended. It's like, oh my god.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and Todd Solondz has his own. I love Todd Solondz films, and he has a way of doing that and getting away with it. But yeah, they dispelled that myth. But so I think there is a sadness, but it's also that kind of it's the ending of something, and who knows what that next journey is going to be. So it kind of leaves you having to think about it, and maybe even you yourself then making you think about what you're doing and where you're going in your life.
I think about that on the show a lot. Thank you.
What's that?
Just being a dick.
That's okay.
Doing that 90s humor.
Yeah, but and so aside from that, I think it's a really good movie that is very often underrated or overlooked because it's like put in that comic book genre, and but there's actually so much in the movie and commentary on so many different things I think is really important. And it's a great movie for all of the weirdos and outcasts out there,
and for all the angsty teenagers out there. It is probably like the best depiction of just pure angst, like without any plan, without any plot. I mean, not that it doesn't have a plot, but just like without any distinct this is what's happening kind of plot. Like it is the best depiction I think of like just teenage angst for the sake of teenage
100%.
angst.
Yeah, like me and my two housemates rewatched it together last night, and we were all just saying the same thing. Like, fuck, do you remember when we used to do that? And ringing people up on the phone, and being like, and all like little obnoxious things, and just so angsty about everything.
I had two friends.
And you'd follow the weirdos and stuff around and go, look at that guy, and look at it, and things like that.
Two friends when I was like 18, and I still was friends with them for like a few years after that. But I feel like I was their Josh. Like they would like pick me up, because I don't drive. But
they would pick my red flag
in their car. No, so they would pick me up in their car, and then they would be like, let's prank call someone, and they'd find somebody to just prank call. And they would they would just say something nonsensical and try to get the person to go along with it for as long as possible. Like they would do all of that shit. And I would be like, I don't really want to do this. I feel like a little bit uncomfortable. I feel like this is mean. And I was taken along for so many of these weird adventures to just random fucking places by these two girls that I feel like this movie hit hard for me because of that friendship.
Flashbacks, man.
I actually saw one of them at the gas station on Friday, which is kind of funny. I haven't in years. But
was she practicing nunchucks or no?
No, she wasn't practicing. But she was like, "Hey, let's go on an adventure," and I was like, "I know well enough now not to say yes to that."
Yeah, that hits
Your
different when you're
adventures
adult.
are not adventures I want to join.
That those adventures have like prison sentences when you're an adult.
I think it was the same day or a day after I watched Ghost World though that I saw her at Mobile, and she was like, "Hey, I'm going back to like Pennsylvania or something. Let's hang out and go on an adventure." And I was like, "No, I watched this movie. I know I know now not to do that."
I ain't going to the middle of nowhere for an adventure.
An adventure? What in this economy?
I like having you up here, Kristina. I think you should be up here now.
Oh,
Damn.
hi.
Demotion for Andy. He said the bus equals death, and they said no, so he got demoted. Kristina, let me hear some final thoughts.
Well, I absolutely loved this movie. I loved everything about it, from directing, the adaptation, casting was phenomenal, acting was great. The narrative, really enjoyed. Really could relate to these characters for sure, because we were all young ones, and some of us were Enids growing up. And I feel like we all, in a way, had our own Seymour in our lives. So, yeah, I highly recommend this film. This is definitely one of the good, like, coming of age films that, as Renee pointed out, very underrated and overlooked. So I hope more by, especially, us talking about it, more people would be interested in it.
Yeah, I hadn't really heard much about this film until watching it for this. So like I definitely enjoyed it, but like I agree on that part. Andy, does the bus equal death? Let's
Is there a Reddit thread we can refer to this on?
Yeah. It's on a hill I'm gonna die on. I know the one thing about this movie, it always takes me back to a relationship I had, because I dated Enid. I was in my early 20s. She was just out of high school. And the relationship didn't really end well. It was sad. We could have been friends. I screwed that up. That's all on me. But this movie always brings back memories of that relationship, the good times and the bad. But it's just like one of those movies that does, it's like a moment in time. It's a, and I don't know if I don't know if I could show this to my kids and they'll get the same thing out of it that I do, because well, they're a little young, but no, it is truly a beautiful movie, and it's fascinating that two men could create such a wonderful movie about women, and it's nice to see, because
dudes rock, man. Yeah.
Especially like after watching Lady Bird and not Superbad. What the fuck, brain?
Booksmart.
Booksmart. Yeah. Lady Bird and Booksmart.
Oh yeah, this is the first male directed movie of coming of age month, huh?
And I think it kind of holds up amongst them, because they really did kind of capture these two characters. I do think if a woman was behind the camera, it might have been a bit of a different film. But I think it still would have touched on the same themes that the comic did. Just two friends drifting apart. And that's really all it is. It's just, scenes of a friendship collapsing.
I mean, I also would say that probably the two actresses put a lot of themselves into the role, and I know that like watching, and if like doing the after party or whatever, like we'll probably watch more clips of them talking about the filming process. But like it is, it's not like the director was overbearing in the sense of like, oh, let me force you guys to follow this narrative exactly. Like they did bring a lot of themselves, I think, into the.
Oh yeah, and I'm not, I think you can see that in the end result, because it isn't a. It seems very naturalistic, and I'm sure there was some interesting things that the cast brought to these characters, beyond just the fact that they were so well cast. Reading what's on the page.
Definitely. I just wanted to make a side note. Sorry, because we didn't talk about it, but how funny was that scene, juvenile? But when Seymour's housemate is talking to Seymour and says like, this is the den of fun, and then does a giant fart.
There
Sorry, it just came to my.
There was a Letterboxd review that I rejected for the Letterboxd one-liners that said most momentous fart in film history, and I thought it was too esoteric to put in. But
the other one the other one we didn't touch on is when he's talking to David Cross, and David Cross is like, "This is how you get girls. If you don't even, and like knowing that they're two like 17-year-old girls having like creepy ass David Cross, like obviously not in real, but like in the movie, like wander over and start like Tobiasing all over the fucking couch."
Well, Amber Tamblyn is significantly younger than him, and there was a Letterboxd review about that, but it was too mean-spirited and not funny enough. It was too mean. It was one step funnier, cool, but like that's not
really him right under the bus for the cancel culture stuff. By the way, I would have divorced.
Yes, very juvenile, but that made both me and my housemate erupted into laughter.
Yeah,
because it was so golden. Because it also summed up Seymour's personality, because he is quite he's wound tight.
Yeah.
And even in that moment, like the guy just lets that giant one rip, and he can't even bring himself to even grin.
Yeah,
he's just
disgusted. Yeah. It's so funny.
But Conan, let's hear it. Final thoughts.
Yeah. I think this slots nicely in the coming of age films. Enid and Rebecca, both, especially Enid, portray a great resting state of discontent that I certainly identify with. I think in high school, I was probably about half Enid, half Rebecca myself. And I had a best friend that was definitely took like a bit of a darker path. I think that there's a humanistic misanthropy to this movie that I like quite a bit and personally identify with. And I absolutely 100% had a huge crush on Thora Birch when this came out, which I only was a few years older than her, so it's not that bad. It's not Steve Buscemi bad. And it's very calculated in how lost some of the characters in this are. Most of the characters are. And the ones that aren't are sort of played for laughs, that they're like something to be pitied, even though they have a path. It's not something that is considered cool or interesting. And the snap judgment and just meanness of it, which comes out of a place of searching. And it's a real tale of friendship between, two adolescents that are becoming women and that are going to go into their lives. And you don't know how it's going to turn out for either one of them. But, you certainly get indicators that goes on, and it's hard not to want to take Enid aside and be like, look, I get it. I'm there with you, but dial it back like 2 clicks here. Like here, don't do it. Like it's fine. Rest of your life, fine. You can do that. But this is going to kind of make decisions for you that you don't know that it's going to. And that's what makes it a great coming of age movie. This movie's great.
Well, and that's angst, right? That's pure angst. Like
absolutely.
I think that just kind of almost self-loathing, self-sabotage. Like, I hate everybody. I don't want to grow up. I don't want to be part of the system. Like, I'm gonna, dye my hair green out of nowhere when I'm supposed to go. Like that.
It was blue for me, but yeah, I did the same thing.
that feeling. And then you put pronouns.
And it was when people weren't dyeing their hair colors like that. That was incredibly rebellious.
Well, that's exactly. Yeah. Like
and then you have like her friends, right? Like Rebecca and the anti-Semitic guy at the record store that she.
So anti-Semitic. He's really on about the Jews all the time too. He's always making.
Apparently, also he might be just liberal. He's on about the Aryans too. But
casting modern liberals.
They're both like. He's like, I don't get what you were going for, and she's like, you know what? Everybody fucking sucks. I hate them. And then fucking her other friend's like, well, I don't get what you were going for with this either. And she's like, people are stupid. And it's like, no, that's the pure distillation. Like if you took angst and distilled it down to like the purest formula, the Walter White blue sky angst, right? Like it would be just that feeling where you're like, everybody's stupid. Nobody gets me. This fucking sucks. I don't want to grow up. I want to go do the things that I want to do. Fuck all this. And this movie hit that note. That her character hits that note perfectly. And just whenever she's put into a situation where she needs to grow up a little bit. She's lost in the wilderness, and her response is just more of that, and that is on point for that age.
Yeah, I mean, well, like I said, it's like a resting state of discontent that is very appropriate for the age group, and it's portrayed in such a way that it usually goes almost cartoonishly the other way, or it's too underplayed, really. But there is a humanism to it because, again, Enid fixates on Seymour, and that ends up being what it is. But she's not a full-on misanthrope. And it's something that it tells you what you need to know about the character, like how she finds deep connection to the blues song, right? Like and finds deep meaning to it in a way that she doesn't find with a lot of things in contemporary culture that she's surrounded with. And look, there's a certain amount of just being lost when you're that age. And like putting up a brave front about it, and like preening and like shouting about it, but being lost. And this movie does a great job of showing that, including the fact that maybe the only person that even kind of sort of a little bit understands you, turning your guns on them, because that's what you do when you're young and you're an idiot.
Yeah, and watching this back to back with Lady Bird, of course, I think the same kind of feeling motivating her is what causes Lady Bird in the first scene of the movie to jump out of the moving car with her mom. Like,
totally, yeah. And this, look, this is an incredibly clever film. It's a smart movie for smart people. I have dated both Enid and Rebecca in my times, and I
at the same time.
Not at the same time. This isn't a Betty and Veronica situation, no. But I just really love this movie, and I love all of the many things it does, including bringing Blues Hammer to the world, which again is cultural shorthand for a certain type of shitty band that you see when you play shows. But this is one of the more underrated coming of age movies, and I think it has something to do with when it came out more than anything else. But there's a lot of it that is just interesting social satire too, and that's Daniel Clowes, man. He's an interesting writer, and again, like, you don't have to be J. Andrew World to understand that. Like, it's the source material is great, but this is also a great movie, and both those things can be true at the same time.
And of course, we are going back to back with an underrated coming of age movie, and then Breakfast Club. So that should be an interesting dichotomy. What I will say for my final little piece is it's like the Taj Mahal of fake 50s diners.